If you want to learn how to develop innovative technology products and services, it is essential that you are aware of the dynamics of how technologies evolve over time. The traditional model of scientific evolution begins with the fundamental discovery of new knowledge. That scientific knowledge then finds its way into practical application and into new products that are eventually purchased by consumers. This process is traditionally referred to as technology push. The technology push phase starts with basic scientific invention. Somewhere in academia or a research institution, a scientist makes a discovery that they document on paper or publish in a research journal. In the next stage of the process, this abstract idea or invention takes on a physical form. Either the same scientist or someone following up the work takes it and creates a physical manifestation of the original invention. This can be a new material, process, or way of performing the process. The invention has now found some practical application. Because the technology was never intended for this practical application, it probably will not be very good at it. It will generally require additional modifications or even new inventions to be built on top of the original science before it can be transformed into a product with real consumer application. This technology push phase ends when a product using the new technology is eventually introduced into the marketplace and consumers purchase it. This first generation product is generally expensive but poorly performing. Once people try the product, they then become vocal in what they would like it to do better, and then we enter the market pull phase, a second generation of products or services built around those unsatisfied, unmet needs. However, as the products get better, consumers become more vocal in their desire for better functionality, faster performance, and cheaper prices, a whole plethora of improvements that can be made. As we move further forward in time, the market becomes more crowded, with more companies vying for the consumers that have been created with these new products, and more technology providers and suppliers looking to provide the critical components that will help their customers build products that achieve the superior performance. This is the market pull phase. The technology makes its way into mass market products and services that have large numbers of consumers wishing to purchase them. Due to these customers being vocal in their desire for improvement, it creates a pool for better products. That pool for better products creates better technology and more technology companies, where fundamental science has to evolve because it has become the rate determining, performance limiting component that limits the performance of all of the products in which it is used. Let us put aside for a moment the one consistent driver of change, which is consumers' desire for better products. What other factors can act as agents of change, triggering exponential improvements in technology performance? Science often makes slow progress in a series of small steps of improvement, and then followed by large strides forward, often referred to as paradigm shifts, when performance improves exponentially. So what external factors can drive these paradigm shifts? Paradigm shifts can often start with a social desire for change, but are quickly transformed into an economic agenda or a political agenda. I chose to study for a PhD in environmental science back in the 1980s. At that time, there were no convincing political or economic drivers for green energy. There was an emerging belief in the scientific society that environmental issues were being caused by humans, and developing the science to understand it could solve complex environmental issues. Examples of this were acid rain and pollution of the ozone layer, both scientifically proven to be caused by humans. This societal change caused me to move into that scientific field. My degree honours thesis was on the impact of aluminium species released by acid rain and the impact that they could have on fish mortality. Government funding was focused on developing environmental science, which led me to pursue a fully funded PhD on the impact of sewage sludge disposal on soils. It has now become a political and economic theme, with billions of dollars invested globally into the science of climate change. This is causing numerous paradigm shifts in green technologies and green energy technology solutions. Ironically, I never worked as an environmental scientist, or even in an environmental context. The discoveries from my PhD were all conducted in an environmental research environment, but initiated a paradigm shift in a completely different industry, laundry detergents. In my PhD, I was studying the use of sewage sludge as an environmentally friendly fertiliser, which was causing heavy metal pollution in soils. It was not all bad because it turned out many soils were rich in naturally occurring molecules that could control these pollutant heavy metals. This chemistry was unknown in the detergent industry. When I crossed over from the environmental field into laundry detergents, this became critical new knowledge that caused a paradigm shift in detergent technology. Metal ion control became the new chemistry to replace the existing bleach paradigm they had relied on for years. This is quite a common phenomenon. Paradigm shifts happen in every area of science at some point in history. Many industries get stuck in technology trajectories. They are focused on one particular performance dimension and do not realise there are other ways of solving the problem. What this example does demonstrate is that fundamental science produced in public sector research institutions can often find its way into practical application in multinational corporations. Large corporations can often get stuck in paradigms and need some kind of external knowledge to kickstart them or physically move them into the next paradigm. It is often at the intersection of scientific disciplines where the big innovations come from, where knowledge from one sector of science leaks into another and becomes a catalyst for change. It is those paradigm shifts that we need to look for. We need to identify those emerging areas of science and think about how they can be used in new products, processes or services in other industrial sectors that may have little in common with the original field of the scientific discovery. There is no such thing as a truly new idea. The concept of the technology paradigm and the paradigm shift has been around in a number of guises for nearly 100 years. It was first described as creative destruction by the Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter, who recognised that the social desire for change could lead to innovations that destroyed existing industries and created new ones. It is ironic that Schumpeter used the single department store replacing multiple street shops as an example of creative destruction, the terminology he used to define a paradigm shift in a business and social context. It was in the scientific philosophy literature 20 years later that the specific concept of paradigm shift was truly recognised in a scientific context. Thomas Kuhn specifically referred to paradigm shifts and new eras of scientific evolution. And as we all know, history is filled with these. Most recent is Clayton Christensen, who developed his definition in the management literature that he calls disruptive innovation. I do strongly suggest you read his book, The Innovator's Dilemma, as it is filled with some excellent examples that you will clearly relate to. In this section, you have been formally introduced to the paradigm shift, why they are hard to shift, how external influence can cause them to change, and understand why the incumbent science or industry will do their very best to resist it.